how much of your budget should be dedicated to hobbies and leisure? And is it wrong to spend on fun? Maureen Parent is back to discuss it. Let's begin.
This is Debt Free in 30. Here's your host, Doug Hoyes.
Maureen, welcome back. How are you doing today?
Great, thank you. How are you?
We're not going to discuss your medical issues because you have medical issues that were incurred playing baseball, and you now have a busted calf and will not be playing baseball for the rest of the season. So we're going to gloss over that. People don't want to hear our problems.
Start the show by making me cry.
I know it made you cry when you got put on the IL. So we're all very sorry about that. So the question today: is it wrong to spend money on fun? And I mean, I can see both sides of this argument. That on the one hand, well, if you spend too much money on fun, you will not have enough money. So obviously you have to prioritize paying your rent and buying groceries. And we all know that groceries are very expensive these days. But the flip side is, well, if I never have any fun at all, what's the point? So my question to you then is, and really the question for the whole show is it wrong to spend money on fun? So what are your thought processes? Give me your thoughts, and we'll take it from there.
Okay. So no, I don't think it's wrong to spend money on fun.
Perfect. That's the show, people. Thank you very much. We're all done. Spend money on fun. Okay.
Best.
So you don't think it's wrong to spend money on fun? Tell us your reasoning.
You can always make it look like a diet, right? If you went on a diet forever, as soon as you stop the diet, you will eat a whole cake, right? Like there's feast or famine. Budgeting is the same. If you don't spend any money on fun, you'll also have some mental health issues as well, right? You'll feel down, like, why am I doing this? I'm always struggling. I can't. Like it can be very, it's a very negative thing to not spend money on fun, in my opinion. But then also you can't spend everything on fun.
Well, and your allusion to dieting, which I guess you're saying I'm fat. That's what I sort of got out of that. But,
right, let's go there.
I am trying to, I should have wore different kinds of stripes, I guess, today. So you're right. If you cut your calories to 1,000 calories a day, you can do that for a period of time, but at some point you rebound and get into a lot of trouble. Which is why the gurus, some of them will say, oh, you need to have a cheat day.
Right.
So eat really well during the week. And then if on Saturday, well, maybe you have that extra piece of cake, so be it. It's, one day of the week, not a big deal. And that's kind of what you're saying here when it comes to money, that be disciplined all of the time, but you can have a little bit of fun some of the time.
Right. To a degree.
To a degree.
For
okay.
Sure. Because, way back in another lifetime, I studied nutrition. So, a diet really is supposed to be a lifestyle choice that you can live with your entire life, not have to do periodically to do certain things. It's supposed to be healthy and well-rounded. That's a diet. That's a proper diet. Same with I know you hate the word, but same with the budget. A budget is supposed to be there to help you live your lifestyle for your life. So you shouldn't have to have particular days where all of a sudden you're like, okay, now I can go do this. It should be kind of built in to have flow so that it's not so structured. Some people do well with structure and then do that, but other people don't, and it collapses.
So what it comes down to, both in dieting and money then, is to set whatever the realistic limits are. And I agree with you, whether it's dieting or budgeting or health in general. I am a systems guy, not a goals guy. So you're better off having a system. My system is, okay, I don't eat breakfast. I have the same lunch every day. This is what I have for dinner. I know exactly what I'm doing. I don't have to think about it. I don't get myself into trouble. And with money, I guess it's kind of the same way. The reason I don't like budgeting is because people just don't do it. I'm a much bigger fan of setting it and forgetting it. So, okay, I get paid every 2 weeks. I know my cell phone bill's $100 a month. Every 2 weeks, I program it to send them $50.
Right.
What then is your thought process to setting realistic limits then? So how do you how do you do that? You're saying, yes, you should spend some money on fun. Right. Okay, how much? How do I do that? What's my thought process there?
Well, and I think just to backpedal a little bit, I know we kind of talked a little bit about why it's important to spend money on fun, but the other thing is it does prevent overspending, right?
It prevents so spending
that's right. So
prevents
if you're not
overspending.
budgeting, that's right. If you're not budgeting for fun money, then you will overspend. It's like feast or famine. Are you going to eat the cake or are you going to have a piece of cake? Budget for the piece of cake so you can eat, so you don't go and blow your budget on something, right? So, and then when you're setting a budget, realize that the budget is meant to be permission to spend. So I do like the system of set and forget, but I am a fan of create your budget, know where your money should be going and is going, set a lot of things in place so that you don't have to think about it. And then the money left over is where you would spend your fun money. So setting realistic limits is really important. And you have to do that by knowing what are your necessities? How much is my rent? How much are my utilities? What's my car payment? How much do I need a month on gas? If you haven't tracked your spending, you won't know these answers. How much is an average month for groceries? Like look at the past 2 to 3 months. What do I have there? So you kind of go through that, and don't forget, like you do need to have money for savings. So sometimes that can be a bit depressing when, at our local grocery store, the normal butter is not over $9, and the cheap butter is $6.49. Like that's a normal price. It's absolutely insane. So, I mean, I know that budgets are getting tighter and tighter. So, and it can be a little bit hard to see that, oh, maybe I only have $20 for fun. Right. But that's an important number to get to. How much do I really have to set aside for fun? Is it $100? Is it $20? But you need to do your budget to get there.
Yeah. And I agree with knowing where you spend your money. My objection to budgeting is if you're trying to keep track of every penny for the rest of your life, it's like counting every calorie. You're just not going to do it. It's a great goal. You're just not going to do it. But I do agree. And every person I meet with here at Hoyes Michaelis, I say to them, look, for the next couple of weeks, put everything on your debit card so you got a record of it, or go back and look at everything you've put on your debit card or credit card for the last couple of months. That way you can see what you're actually spending, and that kind of gives you the baseline. So let's make this a little more practical. Give me an example off the top of your head of something that would be fun money, something that you're spending money on that is fun. So obviously it's not rent, it's not groceries. What would be an example of fun spending?
Well, that is individualized. So to go across category. So going out for dinner, getting your nails done, buying home decor, going out for a concert. Those are all things those are fun.
Yeah, I mean, right? I get my nails done every day, so I consider that to be a necessity. But yeah, okay, going.
Then there becomes a blurry line, right?
That's the blurry line. So, do you think getting a tattoo is fun spending? What's your position on that?
I totally think it's fun spending.
There you go.
I saved for that.
I understand. There it is, folks. That's why you're watching this on YouTube, so you can see the tattoos. Okay, so you're right. Part of it is deciding what actually is fun spending. Like going out for dinner, okay, well, that's food. I have to eat pretty much every day, but I can obviously make it at home or go to a restaurant or whatever. So what you're saying structurally is I got to figure out what my baseline is. What do I have to spend on rent and food and, transportation and all the basic stuff? What do I want to be allocating to savings? And you got to have some plan there. Am I saving for my retirement, my kids' education, a new car, a new house, whatever it is? And then based on that, what can I afford to allocate to fun money? And it should be something. It shouldn't be zero, because if it's zero, you're going to go nuts. Mm-hmm. But if it's too much, then you end up getting into debt to do it. So since this show is called Debt Free in 30, and we're now in season 10 of Debt Free in 30, I'd like to explore the connection between having debt and feeling guilty about doing anything fun. So have you ever talked to clients who have, I'm really scared of spending because of my, financial problems? How do you kind of get them to loosen up to spend just enough but not too much? Like what's your thought process practically there?
Right. So there are people I have met that do have that struggle. I think a more common struggle is I'm already in debt, in for a penny, in for a pound, right? I'm struggling. I'm just going to spend because I'm coping, I think is more what we see. And then the blurry lines between what is fun and what is like necessity, right? Getting the nails done. That's not, some people will see that as a necessity, but that's actually fun. That's actually, but yes, so it is hard because I've seen both, probably more the in for the penny, in for the pound problem, loosening up to spend when you're feeling very practical. That can be a hard thing to do. But I think a lot of times it's because the perspective is the fun money is the vacation down south, or it's something that's costing a lot of money. So it's re-identifying things as going out is fun money. Like that. So you need to identify what is fun on a low scale and a high scale. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Big picture, small picture. I agree with that. So, I mean, if you're going out and buying an ice cream cone at the local ice cream place, okay, that doesn't cost very much. You don't really have to plan months in advance for that. But if you are going on the annual vacation, that's obviously a much bigger expenditure that has to be thought through. But I do agree with you. I think the more common thing we see is in for a penny, in for a pound. It's like, you know what? It's tough out there. We got high inflation. I'm never going to be able to buy a house because of the way the house prices are. The job market, okay, I got a job, but there's not a whole lot of opportunity for advancement. I got other issues in my life. And so you know what? If I'm already in this situation, why not just spend a bit more and have a bit more fun? The issue, of course, then becomes, well, now you've just incurred a whole bunch of debt to do it. So how do you, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and that whole thing about the ice cream, like I can hear myself in my head going, oh, come on, like I have a job, like I'm making my payments. Like, why can't I just go get the ice cream with my kids? It'll be fun for them. But then if I've already planned a trip, so there's layers of fun too. So if we are planning the big trip and we're also doing the little funds, then the money depletes a lot quicker. And then all of a sudden we're using credit to kind of fill in the gaps. So it is making a balanced choice between, well, if we're doing this, we can't do that. We're going to the store, we're buying a tub of ice cream, whatever's on sale, we're getting the ice cream cones and we're scooping from home so we can still have the ice cream. We're just not paying the cost of having it out because we want to do this. So you also want to value assess your fun to see.
I think that's true. Value assess, because you can only spend a loonie once.
Right.
So you got to decide where you want to spend it. So if that family vacation down south that's a real priority, we really want to go there and it's going to cost this much, okay, then you're right. We can't go to the ice cream shop 3 times a week, but we can buy a tub of ice cream and make our own. That's my theory of coffee as well. It costs a lot of money to go to the coffee shop and buy a coffee compared to what it costs to make it at home. And quality-wise, I don't think there's any difference making it at home versus getting it at the coffee shop. But price-wise, it's a massive number.
And it's not a time saver. I actually calculated that. I sometimes I would go to Timmy's for not the coffee because I can't drink that, but not Timmy's coffee, just any coffee. But I would get breakfast because I'm like, oh, I'm late for work. I'm going to go. I'll stop, get breakfast, blah, blah, blah. And so one day I timed it and then I timed myself making an egg at home. And I was like, oh, it's the same time. It's just my mindset thought that if I got on early and did this, then I would get earlier. But no. If I made the egg at home, I saved money and I got in at the same amount of time. So
yeah, you have to stand in line either at the drive-through or at the place, and you got to go there and divert yourself over. And so you're right. There's the time and the financial aspect to it. But again, you got to plan in advance. I did make eggs this morning, which I brought in for lunch today. You got to actually have the eggs at home and whatever you're going to chop up and throw in it and all the rest of it. So there is some advanced planning required there. So, okay, let's go back to the practical stuff because I want to keep this as practical as possible.
Right. Okay.
So how do you walk your clients through integrating that fun component in their budget while still maintaining their other expenses? So does it have to be a flexible budget? Is it, something you got to look at regularly? Like, how do you actually explain to them how to do that?
So I definitely explain having the set and forget, know where your money goes, set your bills so that they're out the door. So assuming that you have your fixed goals already paid, then whatever's left in your bank account the day after payday is your money to spend on all of the flexible costs that you can't prepay, like gas money, food money. So you know what those look like. You pull that out. You've already, in my plan, the savings for emergencies and whatever goal you have there, that's already gone out on your payday as well to your savings. So that's all done. So if you have debt, you've made your payments, all of that has been scheduled, whatever is left over. So then you've pulled out your money for your gas and your groceries, and then you have money left. So then it's deciding, okay, what am I going to do with this money?
Yeah, and right? I completely agree with all that, which is why I don't think you need to budget. So you're agreeing with me here is what I interpret. But the way you described it is exactly correct. So yeah. I get paid every 2 weeks. So a lot of my bills are monthly. My rent is monthly. My cell phone bill is monthly. My hydro, my gas, whatever. So right. I take my paycheck and every payday I pay half of everything. Now, obviously, your landlord might not want a check every 2 weeks, but fine. Set up a separate bank account. You can get all sorts of free bank accounts at these online banks. I transfer half my rent money every 2 weeks into that account, and then my landlord can take it out on the first of the month. I don't have to worry about it. My cell phone bill, my hydro, all those things I can pay, again, automatic transfer twice a month. For things like groceries, okay, it's a little trickier because I'm buying groceries more often than every 2 weeks, but again, you either set that money aside in your bank account or have a separate bank account just for groceries and you throw the money in there. And it's the same thing with that long-term savings goal or midterm, which is my vacation. I put the money aside. So what you described is exactly correct. At the end of payday, whatever money is left over, that's my fun money because I've already paid all my bills, paid my credit card payment, and set aside the money for rent and the other monthly things.
And the clothing. Don't forget the one-off, like the expenses that come up, not monthly, but they come up throughout the year. So I've also suggested people put money into the operational savings account. So all of that is done. So you have everything taken care of. So you might have $10 left over. And you might have $100 left over.
And that's what you've got.
Your fun money.
Yeah, that's what you've got. Yeah, you're right. Things like, so my groceries is every week. My phone bill is once a month. My clothing bill is maybe every 3 months. As the seasons change, I need to get a new shirt or whatever. Although viewers of this podcast will know that I don't think I've had a new shirt in many years, but who's going to know, right? And
everyone now, because you just told them.
I just told them, exactly right. And then there's some things that are annual, that my annual vacation, whatever. So I believe I recorded a couple of videos on this like 10 years ago that are still up on YouTube. And I suggested what you're saying, that what you need to have is your main operating account. That's my checking account. My paycheck goes into that account. That's where I buy groceries from. But then I have a second account, which is my plan account for everything that is not a weekly expenditure. So my clothing budget, for example, and you've got kids, and I've met your boys. They probably need a new pair of shoes every 3 months because they keep growing. So, okay, I know that a pair of shoes costs this much. I'm going to have to buy 2 pairs. So I need to be putting aside $50 every 2 weeks, and that just goes into that account and it's gone. So however you do it, you could have 15 different accounts, I guess, for the 15 different expenses you have. That seems like overkill to me. But the key point is you tuck the money away, whatever's left over, you can spend on whatever you want. Is it essentially that simple?
It is. And then you can add some fun to it too, because I know, especially with kids and lunches for school, there's always that desire for all of the fun treats and stuff. So you can say to the kids, well, hey, like if we can save X number of dollars on the groceries, then we can use that for whatever is fun for them, right? Let's go to paintball. Let's do something. And then you're engaging your kids on trying to save money at the grocery store and kind of being mindful. Because I find it's so hard to save at the grocery store right now, but that is the easiest place to kind of save money. And I'll say for anyone who has teenagers, I've also said to my son who works now, said, I will still put money towards your shoes and all of that kind of stuff, but I'm only putting in the same amount of money. If you want the extra expensive stuff, that's great, but you're earning money now. That's what you can put your money towards. I'll still buy the basics if you're happy with that, but if not, you're buying that. So it helps defray that the teenage cost of wanting to have the best of everything and whatnot. So that's another tip to put in there to allow you to have more money for fun for the family. Anyways? No,
I totally agree. And teenage boys are a pain in the butt. I assume girls are too. I only had sons as well, but and they're now all growing. But you're right. You got to get the whole family on side with this, because if we all like to have steak on Saturday night, well, that probably means we're having mac and cheese on Tuesday night, which I perfectly like. But
that's also expensive now.
It is, eh?
That's not 99 cents a box anymore. It's like $3 a box. It's insane.
Where is this world going to? So here's a question you can't answer, but I'll ask it anyways. Okay. How much should you spend on fun? So if we were to break it down as a percentage of your income, what's the magic number?
Well, I mean, we did a whole podcast on the 50-30-20. So they can look at that, but it really is hard to do it in my mind, it's hard to do it on a percentage basis. Like you really need to know where your money is going, and then kind of see how much is left over for fun, divide your income, and then that's how much your percentage is. I think it's individual. I don't think necessarily 10% is the golden number. Like, what if 10% is way too much money and you can't possibly afford it? So I think it's setting realistic limits and resetting what is fun, right? If you really like to go out and have some drinks, well, maybe have a party at home with some friends and do a mixology contest or something like that. So everyone's brought something over, you're having a party. If you like to go to the movies and you don't have enough, then I'm skipping around, but then you have a movie at home, right? So I don't think there's a set limit. The limit is how much you can afford.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so, which is why we started this off by saying you got to figure out what your baseline is and see what the potential extra is. And it may be $10 a week. That may be it. Yeah. Maybe it's, $500 a month. It's going to be different for everybody, and also depends what you can cut back in other areas and how you reallocate and so on. But I think it is a horrible mistake to try to compare yourself to anyone else in the world. So just because your next door neighbor goes out to a restaurant 4 nights a week does not mean you should therefore be doing the same thing. Their situation is different. They've probably got more debt than you. That's probably how they're doing it.
I was just going to say that. I say that to my kids all the time. They're like, look at that guy. He has such a nice car. I'm like, yeah, but you know what? I bet you they're really in debt. Like, there are some people who are not, but most people are.
Yeah, it's very rare to go in and pay cash for your Lambo. So it's almost certainly financed. So I agree. You don't be focused on any kind of percentage. It's individual to your situation. So live your own life. Don't care what anyone else thinks, because it's totally wrong. So, okay, so let's end the show with whatever other practical advice you would like to throw at us. And I think we've sprinkled the practical advice throughout, so that's pretty good. But do you have any other suggestions for, activities that are fun but are also less expensive, for a family, for an individual, whatever you got?
So I'll just go back and say it is really important to identify the blurry line expenses that can be seen like necessities but are actually fun. So if you are getting your nails done a lot, maybe you're doing press-on nails, or if your picnics are a fun way to have, but cheaper, right? Potlucks, those are fun. Going to the beach, those are all looking at local pages to see what's going on in your community. There's lots of local festivals. So there's tons of different things that are available that are pretty cheap that you can have fun. And those can be sprinkled in. Like, what if you're saving for that big trip with the family? So sprinkle in the super cheap or free events to kind of keep the fun going.
What are press-on nails?
I don't use them. Like, I use the other stuff. I don't have any on, but press-on nails, it's just basically a plastic nail with glue on it, and you press it on.
Gee, that sounds painful to me, but
only when they come off.
Only when they come off,
incorrectly. I hear.
Yeah, and I like the idea of looking for local events, because there's probably something going on, and podcasts are free.
Yes. Yeah, so they're so fun too, especially ours.
Exactly. I'm sure the whole family is sitting. I mean, that's why I got the old radio here in the studio. It's like the old time where we all sat around the radio 80 years ago and listened to podcasts. So finding entertainment that is obviously less expensive than others. But it's tough. Because, if all your friends are going out to the restaurant and the bar afterwards and the concert, and it's going to cost a lot of money, and if you're the one always saying, "Well, I can't do it," then that's a problem. But I think,
then you eat a lot before you go to the restaurant, so you're not really hungry, and you have the cheapest thing on the menu. So you're participating, but you're not spending a lot. And then maybe suggest that you be the DD.
Yeah, there you go.
And since I'm the DD and gas is a lot, you guys can buy my pop.
Perfect. That's an excellent way to do it. Well, and having your friends over. So, okay, instead of going out, we're going to kind of rotate around, and you'll come over to my place this week, and we'll, get that $3.99 box of mac and cheese, or, if you're preparing it yourself, and that can be part of the event, right? We're going to do the barbecue or whatever. So you can still have fun, but you're keeping the cost down. Or you've got to cut costs in other areas. You're making your own coffee as opposed to going to the coffee shop to do it, and freeing up the cash to do it that way.
And Canadian Tire has a $10 little thing, and I don't know if it could be somewhere else. Maybe Amazon has it too, but it's a little a battery operated whipper, and it will make a really nice latte. Because I was enjoying, it's a chai tea latte. And because I didn't want to spend the money at the store that sells it, because it was like close to $7, and I resented that. So I bought that, and I can froth, and it makes a beautiful chai tea latte at home. It can make any latte at home because it's a frother. So there's different ways. If you start to explore, you go, what do I love? And then break it down so that how can I do that cheaper? And it becomes a game. It becomes a challenge. Then you have you have successes, because then you're like, oh my gosh, my goal was to save money. Now I have more money for this that I value. So you always want to make sure when you're looking at an expense to spend, what is it, Mary Kondo? Like, does it give you joy? Right? What I'm spending on, does it give me joy? If not, then spend your money on something that gives you joy. And if that's expensive, break it down, and that becomes a rewarding challenge.
Yeah, I agree. Wasting money on meaningless stuff is really stupid.
But we do it all the time.
But we do it all the time. So if you're going to spend money, yes, you should get some joy out of it. What's the point otherwise? And I don't know what a chai tea latte is and a frother and all that stuff. I never understand most of the stuff you tell me, but I do understand coffee. And so I go, when I'm in Toronto, I go to the farmer's market, to the coffee place under there, and I buy the fresh roasted beans. I mean, most grocery stores have beans as well. I've got the grinder. I got the coffee machine. That's a fixed cost. I invested in it, many years ago. I can use it every day. So my cost of coffee is a lot less than anywhere else, but it's just as good or better. So maybe I'll get the frother thing and I'll froth it up too. So there you go. Well, I think we've covered a lot of good stuff. I like your comment about blurry line expenses. You got to, spend some time thinking about this. What side of the line is something on? Is it something I want to spend money on or not? And make your decisions that way. So any final comments you would like to make today?
No, I really think it is important to spend money on fun. And when you spend it on something that you enjoy, then you will appreciate it so much more. Just try not to overspend. That goes back to the wants versus needs. But
yep. Well, you earned the money, so you should be in charge of where to spend it. Maureen,
that's absolutely correct. Sorry.
Maureen, thank you very much for being here. I think we've covered a lot of good ground. I will put a link in the show notes to the podcast you and I did about 50, 30, 20. People can revisit that one. I'll also put a link to the videos I did trashing budgeting, so you can all watch those. They're about 10 years old, but I think they're still relevant. And right. And there you go. There's some very practical advice. So, Maureen, thanks very much for being here. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, you know the routine. There's a bunch of buttons to click, the notification, the subscribe, whatever, so that you get notified of the podcast every week. And most of our listeners are on the audio platforms. I don't know why they don't want to look at my face, but most of our listeners are audio. You can get us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, every other podcasting app. So again, subscribe. You'll get the podcast every Saturday morning or whenever you want to listen to it. That's the beauty of podcasts. You don't have to listen to it right when it comes out. You can listen to it when you're going for your walk. You can be listening to the podcast. So please do that. Once again, that is Debt Free in 30. Thank you for listening and watching. I'm Doug Hoyes. Until next week, that was Debt Free in 30.